What is meaning? And how do we, as human beings, derive it? Is it something that we can apply to every situation that we ever come across? Or is it something that is encapsulated in a moment? Is meaning something that is earned or something that is taught? Is meaning even really meaningful? By definition, most people believe that meaning must be forged rather than obtained or meandered upon. Meaning is something that is different per person because, as is inherently obvious, different things mean different things to different people because of the situations that they find themselves in. So there's no real thing as a universal meaning. So if this is true, then how do we have things such as language? In this situation, language would just be an idea, and it would be up for interpretation. And I suppose that that's how it is, considering meaning is something that is lacking definition. Meaning is a nebulous concept that can be applied to very many things, but it's not something that is so easy to pin down, to define in and of itself, because I feel like I'm talking in circles, but at this point, if I were to say there is a red house can mean very different many things to many different people. If you think about it, what you're thinking about for its meaning is probably different from what I think about, because we have had different experiences in our lives to point us towards different meanings. I was going to let this idea lay here, as may have been obvious in the pacing, but I feel that it's also important to incorporate belonging. There was the previous argument slash statement of sense of self, and the sense of self is based off of largely your circumstance, your raising, your society, as it were. So belonging and meaning, I feel, tend to go largely hand in hand. If you are a person who belongs to a specific thing, you may share ideals with the people that also belong there, quote unquote. But are these statements something that will drive people apart or together? You would think that people being in agreement would make them more similar, where most of the time you'll find that people look at these things, these agreements, as differences, because that means that you disagree with someone else. In that way, belonging is a double-edged sword. This is why nationalism, in its extremist form, could end up being something that drives people to do unspeakable things. Anything in its extreme form can do this, obviously. But a sense of belonging is something that is hard to come by in the modern information age. People seek to weave meaning in places where they don't think it belongs, and try and read belonging in places that it never was. because they are desperate to fit in. They're desperate to create memories because they don't know what tomorrow will bring, which is completely understandable. Nobody knows what tomorrow will bring, and there's nothing to say that anything that we do will have any meaning. Ultimately, the names that are remembered are the names of people that have done great things, whether they be wonderful or terrible. Great just means something that is powerful, typically. Memorable, in a way. A very specific way. Also, slightly hard to define the term great. If you were to try and understand the workings of an atom bomb, there is a great power, and of course, yada yada, great responsibility, whatever. So, if people try and weave belonging next to meaning, what do we have? Typically language. Language can draw us together. Language can discern us from one another. Body language can be something that people use to depict whether a person belongs or does not. In the war, there were American spies sent to Germany, and they would easily be found out if they were sitting with one leg over the other, because the German soldiers did not sit that way. Body language can sometimes speak much louder than any native language, verbal language. But I think that we could be more. I think that humans have a universal language that they are failing to acknowledge because they're afraid of it, because they don't want to accept what it could mean, in that everyone is human. All these humans have so many similarities, and they're always looking for the differences between them rather than trying to fit in, rather than trying to go together. And this is largely forged out of fear. The fear of the unknown, as I've stated before. The fear of the unknown causes people to try and draw apart, because nobody knows what the other person may be thinking. Well, what if we could get to that point? It sounds crazy, does it not? But years ago, people wouldn't have believed you if you had told them the advances that technology has brought to us. In this day and age, miracles happen every other week. They're just not miracles to us. They're just daily occurrences. These are the things that we take for granted because we are privileged in society. We are accepting a role that we should never have been given in the first place. Our ideologies are allowing us only to damage ourselves in the long run. Where you and I see progress, others see destruction. Larger societies like our own cannot function properly without stepping on smaller ones. We would have to find a way to harness power without subjugating the weak. I had this conversation with somebody. I don't think it ever got recorded, unfortunately. Actually, yes, it did. We were talking about what you would do if you could replace power. If there were something stronger than power. But that's an inherently silly concept when you think about it. We don't need something that's stronger than power. We need to be better. We need to be the best that we can be instead of operating at 2% efficiency. We need to be the people that we want to see others become. We need to be role models for ourselves.